Let's talk about some stuff that you can buy to help you work with concrete as a hobby or decorative concrete applications. But let's talk about stuff that's not entry level. So this isn't the day one stuff like nesting bowls that you're going to buy when you start working with concrete as a hobby. Let's start talking about some of the more advanced stuff that you might want to pick up if you're looking to step up your game a little bit. So what are we talking about here? I've got three items in particular on the desk that I want to talk about. Let's start right here. So this one here is a variable speed wet dry polisher. That's what this bad boy is here. And all of that stuff I just said is very important because you need each of those things for doing what we're talking about here, which is step sanding and polishing concrete. Polished concrete, the really shiny stuff. This is how you get there, at least on a desktop or enthusiast level. If I were doing this work professionally, which I have done before, I would not be using this product in particular. I wouldn't be using something of this quality either. This is a relatively low quality, no name brand, and the set of diamond polishing discs that come with it from 50 through to 3000, they're okay. They're going to get the job done for a handful, a dozen, 2 dozen projects that you use them for. But professionally speaking, these wouldn't be what I would use for any sort of large scale application. Fortunately, that's not what we talk about here on the Creating Concrete channel. We talk about smaller stuff, desktop, enthusiast level projects. And this variable speed wet dry polisher that I picked up from Amazon is perfect for that. It comes as a kit with the sanding discs. It's got a little Velcro backed thing here that you just stick on there, and that's it. You do need to do this in an area where you can just make a gigantic mess because it does have a water attachment to it, so it's making a huge mess in terms of the water, but also because you're doing some sanding, polishing, grinding, and all that's going to create like a slurry, a cement slurry, which will leave a definitive haze everywhere that it gets. And it's kind of a big mess to clean up, but it's totally worth it to set up for like a weekend and do a bunch of polishing. And I'll just tell you one thing because I learned this the hard way and I want you to know it in advance. If you're going to do stuff like this, the older the concrete is, the better. So if you pour some new thing, like a color sample like I have here, and then you want to polish the surface, you can't do it after 3 days or a week or 2 weeks. Even a month is the bare minimum that I'll wait before I start polishing concrete. And the reason why is simply that the cement component, it's not strong enough yet. And when you go to polish it, what you're hoping to do is cleave the aggregates in half and expose them and then step sand them to a mirror-like polish. But if the Portland cement component is weak, it's not strong yet, instead of allowing me to cleave that aggregate, it just lets go and fails around the edges. And on the microscopic level, I'm ripping grains of sand out as opposed to cutting them in half and then polishing them. So you'll end up with a pitted, somewhat rough surface as opposed to a mirror polish, which you can get if you wait until your concrete is fully cured, full strength. Then you start your step sanding and polishing process. So let's talk about something else here that you can pick up, which is definitely pretty cool. Certainly not day one stuff when you start working with concrete. What is this? Can you even tell me what this is by looking at it? I bet you nobody can. Okay, maybe some of you did. What this is here is this is a vibration motor. Previously on this channel, I've released a video about how to make a very entry level concrete vibration table, something suitable for use on the desktop level for enthusiast sized projects for working with concrete. It was made with a couple of palm sanders. It works really well. I'm actually staring at it just off screen here right now. But this is even better than what I used there. That's kind of entry level stuff. This is the professional grade version of it. This is a variable speed motor controller for 115 volts. This is a 115 volt motor, 1.3 amps, 100 watts. And I'll tell you this because when I was ordering this, they had a couple options. They have 30 and 40 and 100. Those are kind of like the sizes available. I figure 100, right? Because I do all kinds of concrete stuff, and who knows what I might want to vibrate. And this thing is probably way bigger than it needed to be. pretty sure I could vibrate about half my house with this at full power. So that's a benefit of having the variable speed controller. It's specifically what I wanted out of this whole setup here. So when I make this shaker table for vibrating my concrete and getting all the trapped air out of there so I can get the tightest possible consolidation without any honeycombing or voids whatsoever, this is the product that gets me there on the professional level at the desktop level. So the variable speed controller will allow me to dial this back, which is good because we're not going to need the amount of power and shake that this thing can generate. And further to that, I'll be able to find the resonant frequency of whatever it is I'm vibrating. There will be a special number that you hit there, and you'll see it. You'll see it immediately, all of the air coming to the surface and whatever you're vibrating, whatever it is you're casting out of concrete. This stuff allows you to enhance what you're making so much whilst reducing your cost, because most people are using Cemental, right? Because it's an expanding grout product and it's really forgiving to work with for concrete casting. You don't really have to vibrate, you can overwater, you can do everything wrong, and it still produces pieces which look just perfect, but it costs a fortune. You could just use a regular mortar mix of your own design and put it on a shaker table, consolidate the mix entirely, get rid of all that trapped air in there, and produce consistent high quality results without spending all of your money on Cemental. Just something that I'm suggesting you look into with a variable speed controller and a shaker motor or vibration motor. Worth mentioning here, the these motors are available in both AC and DC. So if you're going to pick a variable speed controller and the motor, make sure that you are pairing them properly. If you have a DC power supply, I suppose you can choose that. The average person is going to use 115 volts. That's what you have for like a regular type plug into the wall. So you would want both the controller and the motor to be 115 volts AC. So what else do we have on the table here? Well, this is interesting, and I'm kind of cheating a little bit because not all of this you can just buy online. These guys here I make myself. But this one here is something that I bought online. So what we're looking at here are texture skins, or specifically polyurethane texture mats. And these are textures of slate and granite and things like that. You can get interesting and unique textures on concrete finishes with sponges, sea sponges, crumpled up plastic bags, paper bags, tinfoil, all sorts of different stuff. You can even, there's one called sand dash. You pick up a handful of wet sand and you throw it at your concrete, and that's how you finish it. And you can get interesting results doing all these different things. But the stuff that I use the most are polyurethane texture skins. They're super flexible and pliable, and you can have any kind of texture on it. I pull these from actual pieces of stone, which gives me a very realistic texture that I can impart into whatever concrete or mortar that it is I'm finishing. You could do a wood texture, you could do a slate texture, you could even do stuff like tile, cobblestones, all kinds of different stuff. You can buy them online, or you can buy the kits like I do, and then you can make them for yourself. The type of kit that you would use would be from a company called Smooth On. Smooth On are manufacturers of products which are specific to the mold making industry. And I'll tell you this because I've dabbled in this. Mold making is a really deep and technical subject, and it's kind of hard to get your head around because you're making reverses of everything that you're doing, and you have to build it in such a way that the pieces can come apart without breaking and without leaving undesirable seam marks in the wrong spot. And the types of material, like a polyurethane versus a silicone versus a latex, there's all sorts of different stuff. Smooth On, as far as I can tell, seems to be the industry leader for this. They have a ton of products on the market. The two different things that you see here are two different surenesses, or two different flexibility of product here in terms of the how much flexibility you want from your urethane. The products that I buy online, you don't really get that. You know, these are intended for contractor grade, and they're very stiff and pliable, but it gives you a starting point, something that you can work with. So you can buy these texture skins online, or you can buy Smooth On polyurethane pourable rubber kits, and you can make your own out of stones that are available to you in your area. So there we have it. Three pretty interesting things that are certainly not day one items that you're going to be buying when you start working with concrete as a hobby, But this stuff is where it really starts to get interesting, and the doors start opening up in terms of the amount of cool things you can make, whether realistic, lifelike rock textures. You can vibrate and consolidate your concrete castings so that you have 100% success every time, or you can do polished concrete surfaces like tabletops, for example, and with a mirror-like finish. And when you start grinding and exposing different aggregates in concrete mixes, you could lose years just exploring that individual aspect of working with concrete. It's a fascinating subject. I hope you found this information helpful. If you did, please like this video and subscribe to this YouTube channel.